She was the kind of girl who could change the air of a room the moment she walked in. Her smile was soft, her voice was calm, and her presence felt like sunshine after a long storm. People often said that being near her was like breathing clean air for the first time. Nobody could really explain it, but everyone felt it. Her name was Ilara. She lived in a quiet colony on the edge of human space. Life there was simple. Markets filled with chatter, children chasing one another in narrow streets and old men telling stories of ancient wars. In this place, Ilara was a gentle light. She helped the sick, comforted the lonely, and carried warmth wherever she went. But there was one man who saw something others missed. His name was Kyle. He was not from the colony. He had come from the inner worlds, once a soldier, now a quiet researcher. Kyle was used to discipline, war, and technology. He was not the type to be moved by a smile. And yet, when he first met Ilara, he felt something that disturbed him deeply. It was not love. It was not even attraction. It was power. He remembered the first time he saw her in the crowded square. People moved aside for her without realizing it. Children stopped crying when she bent down to speak to them. A tired trader gave her free fruit, smiling like a boy in spring. All this happened naturally, as if the world itself bent to her charm. Kyle stood still, watching. To him, it felt unnatural. That night, in his small room above the repair shop, he wrote in his log, "There is a girl in this colony. She is not ordinary. Her presence shifts the mood of everyone around her. This is not chance. This is influence." Kyle tried to push the thought away. Maybe he was imagining it. Maybe she was just kind. But his instincts as a soldier told him otherwise. He had faced leaders who could rally armies with words. He had seen tyrants who could bend crowds with fear. But Ilara did not use fear. She used sweetness, and it worked even better. Days turned into weeks. Kyle watched from a distance. He noticed patterns. Whenever Ilara walked into a market, arguments stopped. When she spoke to strangers, their voices softened. Even animals reacted. Dogs stopped barking. Birds drew closer. She was harmony in human form. But with every passing day, Kyle felt more uneasy. If such charm could move a colony, what could it do on a battlefield? What if this sweetness was not just human kindness, but something more, something unnatural? He remembered stories from the old war, rumors of alien experiments of humans touched by unknown energy, changed forever. Could she be one of them? He did not know. But he could not ignore it anymore. One evening, Kyle found himself walking the dusty road back from the outer farms. The sky was painted with red suns, and the colony lights flickered in the distance. Ahead of him, he saw Ilara carrying a basket. She was humming softly, a tune he did not recognize. And then it happened again. The farmer beside her, who had been shouting at his workers only moments ago, suddenly became quiet. His face softened, and he even laughed like a child. The workers, tired and bitter, began to smile as she passed. The whole group shifted, as if a shadow had lifted from them. Kyle's heart beat faster. He was no fool. This was not normal. Sweetness could not do this. No human could do this. Later that night, he sat at his desk with a single lamp burning. His hand shook as he wrote, "This girl is dangerous, not because she means harm, but because she cannot help what she does. If someone understood her effect, if someone could shape it, she could become the most powerful weapon the galaxy has ever known." But even as he wrote those words, Kyle felt guilt. Because Ilara herself was pure. She had no idea what she carried inside her. To her, life was simple: help people, smile, bring peace. She did not know that her peace could turn into something far greater, or far more dangerous. Kyle leaned back, staring at the ceiling. He whispered to himself, "Sweetness is harmless, until someone learns how to use it." And in that moment he knew. Sooner or later, he would test her. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to. The colony slept peacefully that night. But in Kale's mind, a storm had begun. For Alara, it was only another day of kindness. For Kale, it was the beginning of a discovery that could change humanity forever. What he did not know was that the smallest action, one tiny choice, would soon transform Alara's gift into something the universe was not ready to face. Something sweet, turning slowly, silently, into something lethal. Kyle did not sleep well after that night. His thoughts kept circling around Alara. He tried to convince himself to forget, to leave her alone. But curiosity had always been stronger than his fear. As a soldier, he had learned to obey orders. As a researcher, he had learned to chase questions until the answers broke free. And Alara was the biggest question of his life. The next day, he followed her again. Not openly, not closely, but like a shadow that never left the light. She moved through the colony with her usual calm steps. She smiled at the baker, helped an old woman carry water, and spoke to children with gentle laughter. Each small act carried the same strange effect. People who were restless became calm. People who were angry became kind. Kyle whispered to himself, "This is not luck. This is something measurable." That evening, he went to his small workshop. The room was cluttered with old tools, scraps of alien tech, and notes scattered across the desk. He had brought these things from the war. Strange machines, fragments of unknown energy cores, and scanners that could read more than human eyes. For years, they had been silent reminders of a violent past. Now they had a purpose. He placed a small device on the table. It was a scanner, designed to read electromagnetic patterns. Soldiers once used it to detect cloaked alien ships. Kyle had repaired it in secret, thinking he might one day need it. Tonight he would use it on Alara. But how? She trusted everyone, but she barely knew him. He could not simply ask her to step into his lab. No, he needed a reason. The next morning, Kale created his chance. He went to the market where Alara often came. Pretending to struggle with heavy boxes, he let one fall near her path. Just as he expected, she rushed to help him. Her hands were quick, her voice soft. "Let me help," she said. Kyle smiled politely, hiding his racing heart. "Thank you. I work on small machines. One broke. Maybe. Could you carry this part for me? It's just inside my workshop." Alara nodded without hesitation. She always helped. She followed him into the small room, looking around with curiosity. "It's so full of strange things," she whispered, touching a dusty metal panel. Kyle's hand trembled as he picked up the scanner. He told himself it was only a harmless test. Just light sound, no pain. "Yes, old tools from old wars," he said carefully. "Sometimes I fix them. Sometimes I learn from them." She tilted her head, her smile innocent. "You are very different from others here." Kyle's throat felt dry. He switched on the scanner. A faint hum filled the room, like a hidden song. He held it close, pretending to examine the broken box, but secretly pointing it toward her. The screen lit up. Kale's eyes widened. Her body was glowing, not with heat, not with radiation, but with waves of something else. Patterns flowed from her like invisible rivers, touching the walls, filling the air. No ordinary human could release such energy. It was subtle but powerful, like a silent storm. Kale's chest tightened. "It's real, it's not imagination." "She carries an aura." "A field," Alara noticed his stare. "Is something wrong?" He forced a smile. "No, just surprised the machine still works." But inside, Kale was not calm. He had confirmed it. Her sweetness was not just kindness. It was energy, raw and strange, beyond science he knew. Then something unexpected happened. The scanner beeped louder. The readings spiked. Ilara's charm was growing stronger, not weaker. It was as if the machine itself was feeding her aura, magnifying it. Cale quickly turned it off, his hand shaking. But it was too late. Ilara blinked. I feel strange, she whispered. Her hands touched her chest. Like my heart is too loud. Cale took a step back. The room felt heavier. His mind clouded, his thoughts stumbled. For a moment he forgot why he was there, forgot who he was. He could not look away from her eyes. She was not just sweet anymore. She was overwhelming. Cale grabbed the edge of the table, forcing himself to stay conscious. His training as a soldier kept him steady, but even that was barely enough. Stop, he muttered, though he knew she was not doing it on purpose. Ilara looked frightened. Cale, what's happening to me? He swallowed hard, his voice rough. I think I did this. My scanner. It reacted with you. It made your charm stronger. Too strong. The words hung in the air like a curse. Ilara stepped back, her basket dropping to the floor. Stronger? You mean, this feeling is not normal? Kyle nodded slowly. Sweat rolled down his temple. You were always different, but now you are something else. I think I changed you. Silence filled the workshop. Outside, the colony laughed and worked as usual. But inside this small room, the world had shifted. Ilara's eyes glistened with fear. Cale, what am I? He could not answer. All he knew was this. Her sweetness had been pure, harmless, beautiful. But now, after one small experiment, it had turned into something dangerous. And Cale, whether he wanted it or not, was the one who had lit the fuse. Ilara could not sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the strange rhythm inside her chest. Louder, sharper, like a second heartbeat that did not belong to her. She wrapped herself in her blanket, trembling. The warmth she once carried so naturally now frightened her. People had always smiled near her, always calmed down when she spoke. But what she felt now was different. It was too much. It was heavy, almost crushing. And worst of all, it was not hers alone. The next morning, when she stepped outside, she noticed the change. Children who usually ran to her now froze in place, staring too long. Their wide eyes were filled with awe and confusion, not the simple joy of before. The shopkeeper dropped his tools when she greeted him, as if forgetting how to move. Even the birds on the roof did not fly away. They only turned, watching her like statues. Ilara's hands shook. What is happening to me? Kyle saw it too. From the corner of the square, he studied her carefully. He could see the effect spreading like ripples in water. One by one, people lost focus, distracted, caught in her presence. It was no longer gentle harmony. It was control. He clenched his fists. This is my fault. I woke it up. Later, when the sun began to set, Ilara came to his workshop. Her steps were unsteady, her eyes filled with worry. She stood in the doorway, like a ghost, searching for answers. Kyle, she whispered. I can't live like this. Everyone stares at me. They forget what they are doing. It feels wrong. Kyle swallowed hard. He had expected this moment. He motioned for her to sit, though even he felt the weight of her aura pressing on his thoughts. He had to force his mind to stay clear. You're awakening, he said slowly. The scanner didn't just measure you, it triggered something inside you. A hidden ability. Her eyes widened. Ability? No. No, I don't want this. I just wanted to help people. Now I hurt them without touching them. Kyle shook his head. You're not hurting them, not yet, but you are changing them. That's even more dangerous. Ilara gripped the edge of the chair. Then stop it. You did this, Cale. Can't you undo it? He lowered his gaze. I don't think it can be undone. Silence filled the room, heavy and sharp. Ilara's breath came faster. She felt the truth of his words, deep in her bones. This was no accident anymore. This was part of her. That night, she wandered through the colony streets alone. Lamps glowed softly, and families gathered around dinner tables. But whenever she passed, voices faded, hands froze, eyes followed her. She felt like a walking shadow covering the light. She wanted to run, but where could she go? The colony was small, and outside the colony, the galaxy was worse, filled with dangers she could not even name. Her fear grew into something else. Anger. Not anger at Kale, not even at herself, but at the world that now looked at her as if she were no longer human. By the third day, whispers had begun. She is different. She makes my head spin. She is unnatural. The same people who once adored her sweetness now seemed afraid, even jealous. Children still followed her, but their parents pulled them away quickly. Traders gave her distance. Old women crossed the street. Alara felt the sting of their fear. And deep inside, another feeling stirred, something darker. Kale noticed it too. When she came back to his workshop, her voice was no longer soft. It carried weight, like a command. "Tell me the truth," she said, her eyes glowing faintly. "What am I becoming?" Kale hesitated. His soldier's instinct told him to lie to keep her calm, but his guilt refused. "You are becoming a weapon," he said finally. "Not because you want to be, but because your presence has power no one can resist. If the wrong people see this, they will use you. They will not ask. They will take you." Ilara's heart pounded. She hated the word weapon. It was sharp, ugly, filled with blood. Yet she could not deny it. She could feel the truth inside her. Kale leaned closer, lowering his voice. "This is your awakening. You are no longer just Alara, the sweet girl from the colony. You are something new, and you must choose. Hide it, or control it. Because, if you don't, others will control you." Her hands curled into fists. For the first time in her life, she felt not like a light, but like a fire. When she left that night, she looked at the stars with new eyes. They no longer seemed peaceful. They seemed like watchers waiting for her to make a move. She whispered to herself, "If this is my awakening, then I must decide who I will be. Sweet or lethal." The colony continued to sleep peacefully, but Alara knew peace would not last. Something inside her had opened, and it would never close again. And Kyle, standing at his window, whispered a warning to the empty night. The universe will come for her. It always comes for power. The colony slept under a quiet sky, but danger was already moving toward it. Out beyond the farms, under the shadow of the hills, a band of raiders crept closer. They were not human. Their armor was patched together, their weapons stolen from forgotten wars. They came like wolves hunting sheep, fast, silent, hungry. The colony guards were few and their guns were old. Against raiders they had little hope, but fate had already placed something far more dangerous inside the colony, Ilara. That evening, Kyle felt uneasy. He stood at the edge of the marketplace, scanning the horizon with sharp eyes. His soldier's instinct, the one that never truly left him, was screaming. Something was coming. Then he heard the alarms. A loud, broken siren echoed through the colony. People panicked, running into their homes, pulling children inside. Doors slammed shut. Lights went out. Shadows spread. The raiders arrived. They moved, like a tide through the outer streets, kicking doors, stealing supplies, dragging people into the open. Their voices were harsh, their laughter cruel. Kyle rushed forward, rifle in hand. He had kept it hidden for years, swearing he would never use it again. But tonight, he had no choice. He fired a warning shot into the air. "Back off!" he shouted. Doe. Raiders turned. Their leader, a tall creature with a scarred mask, laughed. "One man, against us?" Kyle gritted his teeth. He could fight, yes, but not against 10 armed killers. He aimed again, ready to sell his life for the colony. And then Ilara stepped into the street. Kale froze. "No, Ilara, go back inside." But she did not. Her steps were calm, slow, fearless. The raiders spotted her and laughed louder. "Well, look at this," one sneered. A little flower walked into the storm. The leader raised his weapon. "Take her alive. We'll enjoy this one." Ilara's heart pounded. Fear burned inside her, but so did something else. The strange force Kale had awakened. It pulsed through her body, hot and bright. She felt it spreading into the air, wrapping around the raiders like invisible chains. The first one to reach her slowed down. His grin faded. His weapon lowered without him realizing. His eyes locked on her, wide and confused. "Why can't I move?" he stammered. The second raider stumbled, dropping his blade. He blinked as if drunk, shaking his head. "She's too bright. Too loud." One by one, the group faltered. Their weapons wavered. Their focus shattered. They looked at Ilara, but not with hate. Not anymore. They looked at her with obsession. Kale's chest tightened. It's happening. Her charm. It's controlling them. Ilara's fear twisted into something new. Power. She could feel their minds bending, their anger dissolving. For the first time she understood. She was not helpless. She was not prey. She was something else. The leader roared, trying to resist. He raised his gun with trembling hands. "Fight! Her! Don't look at her eyes!" But it was useless. His men were lost, stumbling, mumbling, unable to obey. Two of them dropped to their knees, clutching their heads. Another began laughing wildly, distracted beyond reason. Kale stepped closer, amazed and horrified. "Ilara, stop. You'll tear them apart." Her breath came fast. She had no idea how to stop. The power flowed too strongly, drowning her in heat and light. She raised her hands as if to push them away, but the aura only grew. The raider leader screamed and charged, desperate to break free. But he never reached her. His body collapsed mid-run, muscles frozen by her overwhelming charm. His weapon clattered to the ground. Silence fell. The street was filled with raiders, armed, violent raiders, yet none of them moved. They stood trapped in her presence, like insects caught in a web. Their eyes were empty, their wills stolen. Ilara gasped, stepping back. What did I do?" Kyle lowered his rifle. He was shaking, not from fear of the raiders, but from fear of her. "You stopped them," he said slowly. "You stopped them without touching them. Ilara, you turned them into nothing." Tears filled her eyes. She looked at the raiders, once so terrifying, now reduced to broken shells. Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to. I didn't want this." Kale stepped forward, grabbing her arm gently. "Listen to me, you saved the colony tonight, but this power, you must learn to control it. Because if anyone else sees what I just saw, they will come for you." The colony people began, peeking from their doors. They saw raiders defeated, lying on the ground, their weapons untouched. And they saw Ilara standing in the center of it all, glowing like a storm wrapped in human skin. Whispers began to spread again, but this time they were not whispers of fear. They were whispers of awe. She stopped them. She saved us. She's not normal. Ilara's knees weakened. She wanted to scream, to deny it, to tell them she was just a girl. But the truth stood in front of her. 10 armed raiders, all helpless because of her. That night, the colony celebrated their survival, but Ilara did not celebrate. She sat alone in her small home, her hands trembling. Every face she had seen, every voice she had heard was burned into her memory. She was no longer the girl who brought peace with a smile. She was something else now, a weapon, and the galaxy would not ignore her much longer. The colony was safe, but peace did not return. For days, the story of that night spread like fire through dry grass. People whispered in every corner, in every home, in every shop. Some called it a miracle. Others called it witchcraft. But no one could deny the truth. Ilara had stopped 10 armed raiders without lifting a single weapon. Children followed her, more than ever, their eyes shining with wonder. They copied her gestures, her smile, as if she were some kind of hero. Old women muttered blessings when she passed, pressing charms into her hand. Traders offered free goods, not out of kindness, but out of fear mixed with respect. But there were others who looked at her with suspicion. Some said she was cursed. Some said she was dangerous. Some said no human should hold such power. Kyle watched all of this from the shadows. His stomach twisted with guilt. He had started this. His small experiment had changed her forever. Now, the entire colony was shifting around her like planets caught in a new orbit. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Ilara came to Kale's workshop again. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "They look at me like I'm not one of them anymore," she whispered. "Some smile too much, some hide when I walk by. I don't know which is worse." Kale sighed, rubbing his tired eyes. It was always going to be like this. Power changes everything. It changes how people see you. It changes how they treat you, and once it's seen, it can't be unseen. Ilara shook her head. "I didn't ask for this." "I know," Kale said softly, "but now it's yours. The question is, what will you do with it?" Her silence gave the answer. She didn't know. But far beyond the colony, others had already begun to notice. Signals carried through space faster than ships. Stories of a girl who could shatter minds without touching them reached distant ears. Smugglers whispered of her in backroom deals, spies wrote reports, and in the cold chambers of powerful governments, men and women in dark uniforms leaned forward with hungry eyes. "A weapon of distraction," one general muttered. "Armies could fall without a shot fired." "Find her," another commanded. "Bring her in, alive." Meanwhile, Ilara tried to keep living as she always had. She carried water, helped the sick, smiled at the lonely. But every smile now felt heavier. Every act of kindness was met with too much praise, too much fear. One night she walked past two farmers arguing. Their shouts filled the air, but when they noticed her, their voices collapsed into silence. They lowered their heads like guilty children. Ilara's heart ached. She had wanted to ease lives with kindness, not erase anger with force. She began avoiding people, hiding in her small home. But even then, she could hear the whispers outside. "The sweet girl is gone. She is something else now. She is not ours anymore." Kale tried to comfort her, but even he felt the weight of her presence. Every day her aura grew stronger. It wrapped around him like smoke, clouding his thoughts, pulling at his will. He forced himself to resist, but he knew others would not be so strong. One evening, as rain fell over the colony, Kale spoke the words he had feared to say. "Ilara, it won't be long before someone comes. Not raiders this time, soldiers, governments. They will want you as a weapon, and they will not ask, they will take." Ilara looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Then what do I do?" Kale's jaw tightened. He had no easy answer. "You must prepare. You must decide whether you'll run, hide, or fight." The word fight lingered in her mind like poison. She had never hurt anyone. She had never wanted to. But she could not forget the raiders collapsing at her feet, helpless, before her. She had not needed guns, blades, or fire. She had only needed herself, and that terrified her more than the raiders ever had. That night, sleep did not come. She sat by the window, staring at the rain. She thought of her childhood, of laughter, of simple joys. She thought of the smiles she once gave so freely. But those smiles had changed. They no longer calmed the world. They controlled it. By morning, she had made a choice. Not a full one, but the first step. She went to Kale's workshop and said, "If they come for me, I will not be taken. Teach me how to stand." Kale studied her face, the fire now glowing, behind her fear. Slowly he nodded. "Then this is the path you choose, but remember, once you step onto it, there is no return. The world will never see you as sweet again." Ilara lifted her chin. Her voice was quiet but firm. Then let them see me as I am becoming. Outside, the colony bustled as always. But the storm was coming closer. In the shadows of distant worlds, powerful eyes had already turned toward her. The sweet girl was gone. In her place stood the beginning of something else, something the galaxy would soon fear, and perhaps need. Ilara had taken her first step toward becoming not just a charm, but a weapon. The colony had returned to its routine, but Ilara's life never returned to normal. Every smile she gave was heavy with suspicion. Every glance was a reminder that she was no longer just a girl. She was something more, something people feared and admired in equal measure. But beyond the colony's walls, the storm was building. Kyle heard the coded transmissions on his old receiver. Strange signals, encrypted chatter, military scouts moving closer to the region. The galaxy had heard the rumors, and the galaxy was coming. One evening, Kyle sat across from Ilara in his workshop. The air between them was tense. The glow of a small lamp painted shadows across her face. "They will come soon," he said quietly. "Maybe soldiers, maybe mercenaries, maybe something worse. They will not care about you, Ilara. They will care about what you can do. To them, you are not a girl. You are a weapon waiting to be claimed." Ilara stared at the floor, her hands twisting together. She felt the weight of every word. "And if I refuse? If I hide?" Kyle leaned forward. "They will not ask. They will take. And if they can't take you alive, they'll find another way." Her heart pounded. She had always been gentle, always chosen kindness. But now, the galaxy itself was demanding she choose differently. That night, she walked alone to the colony's edge. The stars above stretched endlessly, cold and bright. She remembered the raiders collapsing before her, powerless in her presence. She remembered the whispers of her neighbors. "She's not normal. She's dangerous." Her chest ached. She had wanted nothing more than to bring peace. But peace had turned into fear, and fear had turned into power. Suddenly a sound broke her thoughts. A child's cry. She turned quickly and saw a small boy by the fence, trapped as a wild beast from the hills crept toward him. Its eyes glowed red in the dark, its teeth sharp, ready to strike. Ilara did not think. She stepped forward, her aura flowing like an unseen tide. The beast froze, trembling. Its rage melted into confusion, then submission. With a whimper, it turned and fled back into the night. The boy stared at her with wide eyes. "You saved me." Ilara's heart tightened. The boy was not afraid of her. Not yet. He only saw her as a protector, a savior. And in that moment, Ilara realized the truth. Her power was not just a curse, it was also a shield. The next morning, she returned to Kale with fire in her eyes. "You're right," she said firmly. "They will come for me. I cannot run forever, I cannot hide, but I also cannot let them use me. If I am to be anything, I will choose what I am. I will use this power for those who cannot fight. I will not be taken. I will not be controlled." Kyle studied her carefully. There was no fear in her voice, now only resolve. He nodded slowly. "Then you must learn to control it. Power without control is destruction. Power with control is survival." So began her training. Kyle taught her how to focus, how to breathe through the storm inside her. He showed her how to resist her own aura, to hold it back instead of drowning in it. Some days she failed. Her aura spilled out and Kale staggered under its weight. But other days she held it steady like fire in her hands. At night she practiced alone. She stood by the hills, forcing herself to extend her aura and then pull it back. She whispered to herself again and again, "I control it. It does not control me." But control came at a cost. The more she shaped her power, the more she felt herself drifting away from the girl she had once been. Sweetness was fading, replaced by steel. The world had forced her to change, and she was changing. One night after training, Kale spoke what both of them feared. "Once you step onto this path, Ilara, There is no going back. You cannot be both sweet and lethal. The galaxy will not allow it. You must choose who you are. Ilara lifted her gaze to the stars. Her voice was quiet, but unshaken. Then I choose. I will be both. Sweet to those who need me. Lethal to those who threaten them. Kale stared at her in silence. He had seen soldiers make choices before wars, but never like this. She was not hardened by violence. She was guided by something deeper. But even as she made her choice, Kale knew the galaxy would not let her live in peace. Whispers were already turning into movements. Ships were already being sent, and soon her choice would be tested. For now, though, Ilara stood strong. She was no longer only the girl with a gentle smile. She was the one who had chosen her path. And when the galaxy came knocking, it would not find a victim. It would find a shield. The night was silent when the ships came. They fell from the sky, like steel hawks, their engines screaming, their shadows swallowing the colony. Lights cut across the streets, soldiers in black armor marched out, weapons raised. They moved with precision. Not raiders, not smugglers, but a trained strike force. The colony panicked. Families hid inside their homes, whispering prayers. Children cried as doors were bolted shut. Everyone knew who the soldiers wanted. They were not here for supplies. They were not here for trade. They were here for Ilara. Kale stood at the colony's edge, rifle in hand, his heart heavy. He had seen armies like this before, ruthless, unstoppable, but tonight, he was not the only shield. Tonight, Ilara had chosen. She stepped into the open street, her figure calm against the storm of soldiers. Her white dress glowed under the harsh lights, her eyes steady. She felt the fear of the colony behind her, pressing on her shoulders. She also felt Kale's gaze, steady and unshaken. The commander of the soldiers raised his voice, sharp and cold. Ilara, you will come with us. You will serve the Empire, or you will not live. Decide now. For a moment, the old Ilara, the sweet girl who only wanted peace, trembled inside her. But then she remembered the boy she had saved, the raiders she had stopped, the whispers that had turned to fear. She remembered her choice. Sweet for her people, lethal for her enemies. She stepped forward. Her voice carried through the night. I am not your weapon. I am not yours to take. The commander's hand lifted. Fire. The soldiers raised their rifles. Blinding flashes lit the street. But the bullets never reached her. Her aura exploded like a storm. A wave of invisible force ripped through the air, bending minds, crushing focus, twisting wills. Soldiers staggered, their guns slipping from their hands. Some dropped to their knees, clutching their helmets, crying out in confusion. Kale watched, in awe. She was no longer struggling with her power. She was wielding it. Every movement was controlled, every breath deliberate. She was not drowning in her aura anymore. She was the storm. The commander roared, fighting against her influence. His armor hissed with hidden tech, shielding him slightly, but even he stumbled, his aim shaking. She's too strong. Ilara's eyes burned with fierce light. She stepped closer, her aura wrapping tighter around the soldiers. Leave this place, she commanded. Her voice was soft, but it struck them like thunder. Or be broken. The soldiers tried to resist, but their wills cracked like glass. One by one, they collapsed to the ground, unable to move, unable to think. The commander fell last, his weapon slipping from his hand as he gasped for breath. The battlefield was silent. Dozens of trained killers defeated without a single wound on Ilara's skin. The colony doors creaked open. Faces peeked out, wide with disbelief. They had seen her power before, but never like this. Tonight, she had not been the sweet girl. Tonight, she had been the storm that saved them all. Kale lowered his rifle slowly, his chest tight. He had fought wars, seen weapons that could shatter planets, but nothing compared to what he had just witnessed. He whispered to himself. Sweetness turned lethal, and lethal turned unstoppable. Ilara stood in the center of the silent street, her aura slowly fading, her chest rising with heavy breaths. She looked at the fallen soldiers, then at the colony she had protected, and for the first time she did not feel fear of her power. She felt purpose. The people began to emerge, whispering her name. Some bowed, some cried, some simply stared, unable to understand what she had become. Ilara turned back to Kale. Her voice was steady. It's done. But this is only the beginning, isn't it? Kale nodded grimly. Yes, you've shown them what you are. More will come. Stronger ones. The galaxy does not ignore power like this. Ilara looked at the stars, her eyes hard but not hopeless. Then let them come. I will not be their weapon. I will be our shield. Kale felt a strange mix of pride and sorrow. She was no longer the girl he had once watched in the market, calming crowds with her sweetness. She was something greater and more dangerous. The night grew quiet again, but the colony knew it was no longer hidden. The galaxy's eyes were watching, and in that silence a legend was born. Ilara, the girl who once carried kindness like sunlight, had transformed. No longer only sweet, no longer only human charm, she had become lethal, not by choice of the galaxy, but by her own choice. She would not be claimed. She would not be broken. She would stand, sweet and lethal, until the stars themselves remembered her name.